part of me is showing up for that little girl nobody showed up for, and the other part of me is seeing the same situations happening with our young people that I was facing when I was younger, and I can't understand it. I can't process it.
She is a founder of the Red Hook Art Project who is devoted to helping her neighborhood thrive through arts and education.
She's also the inspiration behind the film I Am Not Okay.
We are thrilled to have Tiffiney Davis join us today. My name is Nancy Magarill. I'm a singer, songwriter, composer, performer, graphic and web designer.
And I'm Peter Michael Marino, and I'm a writer, producer, creator, performer, and educator.
We are New York-based artists you may or may not have heard of.
And we are here to introduce you to other artists you may or may not have heard of. It looks like you're in your workplace right now.
Yes, I'm in my studio.
Let's talk about your studio, the work that you do with the kids, the success stories that you have with the kids, and the kind of art that you're doing with them. Is it all fine art?
So Red Hook Art Project, we do all different disciplines within the arts, whether that's visual arts, whether that's ceramics, music. You know, we touch on a whole bunch of different things, all depending on how the artists come to us. We meet every child where they're at. And as you know, every child is not the same artist. So we like to make sure that we have a variety of teaching artists and a variety of materials and lesson plans that they can tap into. So that way they don't feel like they have to come to a place like, you know, sometimes with the DOE, it's structured to a class and they have to stick to that lesson plan. Right. But trying to meet every child where they at and like having them own and on their own leadership and their creativity skills is something that I am really excited about at RHAP because that's what we do. So we even go from 3D printing to laser cut to button making, all depending on what the student requests are. So we survey our students and we ask them, what do they want to, what do they want to try?
Wow.
Oh my God, that's fantastic.
What would have been your answer if you were their age and someone asked, what do you want to try?
Oh, I was always into fashion. So I would have said, teach me how to sew, teach me how to crochet, how to knit, so I can make these beautiful items that no one else have.
Wow.
Are you still doing that?
I do not do that anymore. During the pandemic, I was doing a little bit of that, but then I stepped back into creating self-care products. So meaning like bath bombs and natural soaps and sugar scrubs. And that was my thing growing up. So I went back into that. But as we got back out of COVID, I'm now kind of take a step back from that and just, again, working with every child, meeting where they at.
Well, it's a lot of work to do all those products. I actually had a t-shirt business for a while, and that was so much work getting all of that out there. That's a lot.
Nancy, what would have been your project that you would have wished that you could have taken after school? Or arts?
Well, my thing was always music and theater. What about you, Pete?
I have no idea. I don't know what.
Well, what did you do after school?
Look, this is the thing. I went to Catholic school in Queens, and I wasn't aware that they never taught us about art. I mean, art was like maybe once a month, maybe.
Wow.
And it was just like, here are some paper plates and crayons. Now draw on your hand and make a turkey. Like everyone's just doing the same thing, kind of. And then when I moved out to the suburbs in Long Island in junior high school and went to public school, I was like, what? You can take a sculpture class, a painting class, a drawing class. Like what? How? I always feel like I was robbed of that, opportunity. Like many of your kids, if they didn't have you, they wouldn't know. You're helping them find out what they want to do in their lives too. I mean, this is right.
Absolutely. As a deal, we have many cuts, and those cuts fairly happened inside of communities of color. And it's already that the first thing they pull is the arts. And for me, that's another way to silence a child.
Yes.
It's death in itself. I feel like it's damaging to a child not to have the arts. So
and to society.
Yes. Once I realized that, I'm like, we have to do something much greater and making sure that we can meet every child where they at and provide this for absolutely free.
And you grew up with the arts also?
I did not grow up with the arts, unfortunately. It was something that I wasn't exposed to.
Wow.
It was just school. Unfortunately, I grew up in a very rough environment, not knowing my dad, my mom having a sickness with drugs, and not just knowing what the resources and everything that was available to me at the time. And that's how I became a mother at the age of 14 years old.
Wow.
And then had my second child at the age of 18 years old. So I pretty much, and I took care of my younger siblings and cousins, started from the age 7. Remember making my whole Thanksgiving meal at the age of 7 years old. So I didn't really have that opportunity for for that.
How did you take care of a child at 14? How did you know what to do?
I did not know what to do. I just
No internet. There was no
Unbelievable.
internet, right? You couldn't just go to a TikTok.
no, there wasn't that. What I did know was that I didn't want my child to be raised how I was raised, so I just learned from that and did the total opposite.
It's amazing that you
Wow.
knew that you
Yeah.
were that self-aware.
So I put myself through the shelter system at a very young age and been in my own apartment for a very young age, and here I am today.
Oh my
So at
gosh.
14, where were you living? Can you talk a little bit about that? Like what happened? You were 14, you got pregnant. Did you immediately go to a shelter or did you give birth? Like
No,
what?
I got pregnant at 14. I stayed, home between my mom and my dad's house. And those were challenging issues as well, but made through. And then once I gave birth, I went to the Covenant House, I went to the door, and just trying to find those resources within that. They couldn't provide me with any shelter at the time because of my age. So at 14, it pretty much was me continuing to leave home during the day, go to school. I had to leave school, obviously, and I went to a young mother
Right.
school. I
And where was
originally
the baby at this time?
I went to a young mother school, so the baby went to school with me. And then after that, I gave birth to my second child at the age of 18, and that's when they were able to support me a little bit more with the housing situation. And that's when I went into what they call a tier two. And that's where you go into a shelter where you stay for the remaining of your time until you're eligible for some permanent housing.
And then from there, how did you get into where you are now? Like this
Yeah.
is
That's a
just
jump.
unbelievable to me. And it says so much about the kind of person you are that you were able to navigate all of that, which is
Yeah.
it's hard, like it's a lot for someone to just have a child, right? And to raise a
Yes.
child. But here you are at such a young age and your tenacity is just unbelievable.
Yeah. So it was hard. I surrounded myself with people who I trust, who I seen had great leadership roles,
Mm.
who I seen that was doing something positive in their life. And I just learned from them. I just was observing and taking everything in like a sponge, and utilizing it in the spaces that I needed to be in. And so when I gained my first apartment, which was in Red Hook, and my children, they went to school here in Red Hook, I met a few people, such as Deirdre, who is the other founder of this organization, and she's a white woman. And she saw the potential in my son, and she started giving him classes.
Is
And then
that how
she's
this started? Was just
yes,
her with
Oh
him?
my gosh.
Oh, cool.
yes. So she was a volunteer at the school where my son was attending, and she recognized his talent. And she came to me and she said, I really want to give him personal classes. And I said, I thought she was losing her damn mind. I said, are you dumb? I'm like, he needs to know how to read, do math, do science, because that's what I lacked at. And I wanted to make sure his education was, top notch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not realizing and understanding that taking the arts from him, again, was silencing him and not put him in the position to even care about reading and math. So when she led a class in my home and he did something, a recopy from something from the 16th Chapel, and I seen
Oh
that, I was
my
like, I was
God.
blown
What?
away. I was blown away, and I realized that this is what he needs. And since he's had a pen in his hand, he blossomed with his grades and did everything the right way. Went to school, moved to California at the age of 18, came back. He's a huge social media influencer. And then my daughter, being part of the music department, she utilized her writing skills to navigate education, and she graduated a year early, salutatorian, and then they both work in the nonprofit sector, as well as, my daughter, she designs bags. My son, as I said, he's a social media influencer, so he does a lot of stuff with that and creative directors for huge companies like Feli. He had a clothing collaboration with them and a couple of other companies that he's worked closely with.
They must be so happy for you with this film.
Yes. When my son got to go out there and put his life on the line to protect his own kind, I am not okay. I am not okay. When my son got to call me and tell me NYPD was starting trouble and doing things to people, I am not okay. How do you sleep? How do anyone sleep knowing that lives are being taken because of their skin color? If I could write this shit in fire, I will write this shit in fire.
Let's talk about this film. This film was born of the pandemic, right?
Yes.
Well, it was born of Tiffiney.
Yeah, Tiffany had some time during the pandemic, like many of us.
It was when George Floyd died, and it was just like a overwhelming time for so many because we had to be stuck in a house, and then you had this situation that took place because George Floyd was murdered, and then all of a sudden we all had to be out there protesting and fighting once again for basic human rights and human decency. And and so to have my son in the middle of a pandemic feeling like he had to go out there to protest, put himself and everybody else put themselves in harm's way because we already living with this COVID-19, which is also was deadly at the time. So many people, I lost 7 family members myself.
7 family members from COVID?
Correct. And
oh my
so
God.
that was already challenging for my family and I. So for this and your son going out there and you already see repeatedly what's going on with our young boys of color, it just was hard. So I just I need a place where I can speak. And I never really went live on Facebook, but this was.
It doesn't seem like you're the kind of person who would have done that.
I mean, I do write a lot, but I never take it to where I'm going. If I do go live, it was more about letting the community know that we had food items and essential items the COVID testing, masks, for them to come over to our studio to pick up those things. But I never went to social media and on live to discuss the pain and the hurt of me as a parent and raising young people of color and what that feels like, So
right. And you did. You went online.
Yeah. That day I just was I just need to speak to someone. And I just was speaking from fear. I was speaking from frustration. I was overwhelmed. We all was already alone. I already couldn't really see my children because we all lived in different households.
So you were completely alone during the pandemic?
Yeah. My kids lived together in Manhattan and I lived in Bay Ridge. So I didn't really get a chance to really see them as much. FaceTime and phone calls, yes. But we didn't really spend much time together because, they were young and they still didn't take the pandemic really serious as much as they should have. So they was partying with, having friends come over. And I just was I'm going to stay away. I'm going to stay away from all of that. So I didn't really spend as much time with them. That also was fearful because I was as a mom, you want your children close to you in the event something happened. They're right there and you can protect them, But I also know that they are young adults and they have to go out there and fly. So that also is okay, let them do that. But I don't want my children to have to fight a fight that's unnecessary.
Yeah.
Of killing people because of their skin tone. And we're seeing these things happen in front of our face and they still asking for an investigation. So it was what do you need to investigate? Who was investigating who?
Well, now today I read that they're actually the strategy that Derek Chauvin has come up with is that George Floyd had a heart condition and that they're going to try to prove that that's why he died, as if he didn't kill him.
That sucks.
It's so, well, that is the thing about our justice system that is so fucked up that it can be so manipulated that someone you look at Zimmerman, right?
Yes.
Who got off for killing somebody. It's insane.
The guy who just got off from the train station.
Exactly. Daniel
Penn himself
right.
And, did that. It's the same thing.
It's so crazy. It's a constant struggle for justice. And I think that's the thing that we're seeing in our times is that we have to be so vigilant because there will always be people that will try to wiggle their way out of justice.
Yep.
That will take advantage of the system for whatever reasons they have. And we have to constantly fight it, And
it's hard. It's a hard fight, like I said in the video, in the short film. And it's real. When I have to tell my son to make your hands visible, don't walk in groups. That's how I raised him. When he went to school, I didn't buy hoodies. When he went to school and he walked with his friends, I made sure my son walked with friends that didn't look like him. I made sure my son was able to be around people that didn't look like him. And although my son is more of a light-skinned version of a black man, where he understands his privilege as a lighter version of a black
Yeah.
man, right? But when he's with my dark skinned nephews and cousins, they will bother them first. So this is why my son, sometimes that's why he felt the need to put himself on the line and go out there and protest so that way he can protect the other dark skinned
Yeah.
brothers.
It's interesting because I feel this as a white woman in the city that I actually look at my behavior to make sure that I am sort of letting people know that they're safe. And that also I'm checking myself because look, I grew up in a very Jewish suburb in Baltimore and there was a lot of prejudice and I've constantly been aware of those prejudices that were instilled in me. I have to check myself all the time, because it's been taught. And I didn't realize that when I was younger. I always understood that was going on, but I didn't understand that I was being taught that. And
Yeah,
that's something I'm constantly seeing, even now as an older lady. I see it. I also am seeing the prejudices against me as an older woman. Like we all, it's not the same thing, but I'm noticing it more because we're having these conversations.
absolutely.
And I think this is what I love about the film. I love this about Gabrielle's work in general because she's always done work that is social justice driven. And I think
Well
that,
done, Nancy. Well done.
thank you. I'm getting better at catching myself. But I think that it's like, it makes so much sense that you two, I'm sort of jumping to the film again, but you two found each other, which I think is so magical because
Yes,
it was like, it was kismet, like you were meant to find each other and work together because it's
absolutely.
such a powerful piece. It
So,
really is
yeah, we just for
beautiful.
the listener, basically what happened is Tiffany went online and expressed many brilliant things. Gabrielle then said, "Hey, I want to use these words as the narration for this dance film." You'll be able to listen to the other episode.
It's already aired. You can go back and listen to the episode with Gabrielle Lansner to get details about the film.
Oh my gosh, I love that Nancy is like literally jumping ahead in time right now in this recording. What I was going to say was there's an added benefit that I believe the kids who come to the Red Hook Art Project are getting, and that is an exposure to what justice is.
Absolutely.
Right? It must run through every marker and
Absolutely.
paintbrush and everything there, right?
What justice is, what it means to work in community,
Yeah.
what it means to be in a diverse setting, what it means to treat people with respect, and what it means to like be around people who don't look like you, and
Yeah.
how do you meet people where they at by having these open conversations, right? A lot of times without an organization like this, a lot of students who we serve or people and a lot of the children who come and do community service hours would have never had the opportunity to cross paths or meet each other to even understand what is happening right here in the community that they live in, and they live a block away from each other. But because it's different cultures and different settings, and what we don't realize is happening in our world is that you will have a program and you'll say this program is $30,000, and then you'll have a program up the block and say it's free. So we are already still have a problem with segregating people and separating people because all programs should be, you're already saying this kid can't afford this. This kid
Right,
cannot go. So that
right.
kid's not going to be in this setting. So that's a problem that I feel like we as people and as this government system, it's still, we have a long way to go.
A
Have
long
there
way.
been students who are, I don't know what's the word, like reticent to sort of jump in and give it a go? Like, that you have them in your, you can kind of see them in the horizon and you're like, I man, I wish that kid would kind of come over to this side.
Yes.
Yeah, what would keep a kid from, is it, social anxiety? Is it sort of not knowing how to socialize? Is it
Some people don't know how to socialize and they socialize by a paintbrush or a marker.
yeah,
And sometimes with those set of children, those set of artists and creators, we give them the space to do that. And then once you give them that space and they find a place where they trust, that's when they start coming around and being around other individuals and sharing ideas.
right. Wow.
I imagine that, I mean, it's hard. Look, we all know as artists, it's hard enough to be an artist, to express yourself, to be vulnerable. And I imagine that when kids are going through whatever it is they're going through at home, within the community, whatever is going on, no matter where you live in our society, I think that it's probably very difficult for some of these kids to open that up and use whatever art they are exposed to express themselves. And I think having that ability to experiment probably helps them a great deal, not only as an artist and exploring themselves as an artist, but as a human being to sort of allow that to come out and then be able to vocalize in whatever artistic form they are,
Yeah,
whatever
of
is going
course.
on
Yeah.
internally with
I
them.
think that allows them even to also understand who they are. They started getting to
Yeah.
learn themselves on a different level and what they bring to the table and around others. So I think it's a phenomenal thing that, this is what's going on here at RHAP, you know?
Have you ever had any kids all of a sudden come out with something that like you had no idea they were going to express, or have they through their artwork all of a sudden realized something about themselves that was like an enormous
Absolutely. I mean, there are students that I meet when they first come to rap and their colors are vibrant, they're bright, and then as you get to know them, you start seeing the colors change,
oh.
right? So then you start understanding the process of they're going through something right now. Something is happening. And then how do I meet them where they at right now to have a conversation with them without them feeling like someone's being in a business,
Yeah.
but actually make them feel like someone's protecting and loving on them.
I'm assuming they have different teachers that you have people that work with. Are they trained to sort of like see that with the students and then help them with their art to get through that? Or is there a social
Like they're not
worker?
doing art therapy necessarily.
No, we're
Right.
not doing art therapy. We are community members of individuals who see a need in the arts, who see the need of our students that we need to support and nurture. So
It's really about the art
it's really
and
about the
letting them
arts. The
find it through the
teachers,
art.
we have students who have grown within the organization who's now aging out, right? And as they age out, they become the co-facilitators and the leaders in the classroom to support our volunteers who come in. So they already set the tone of what that space needs to look like and the language that needs to be provided and making sure there's no stigmas that's being said or drawn in the room.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I want to go. I want to go there.
I know, right? Well, you
Yes.
can as a volunteer too, right? We could come
Yes.
and yeah.
We're always looking for volunteers, especially as the new year come in. We are really looking to get our music department off the grounds. We have a recording booth, piano,
Oh,
guitar, drums,
wow.
turntables. We have a lot of music stuff that have not really been utilized in a way we would like to see it be utilized. So in 2025, we're hoping we have the opportunity to work with a lot of volunteers who is eager to come in and teach those classes.
Oh, I will come in and work with music stuff and maybe podcasting stuff too,
And
if
we
you want
have
to
a
do that.
bunch of podcast stuff as well too. We
Yeah.
got the microphones, the headphones, the computers, software, because we did that during the pandemic. We launched the part class online. It went really well, and then the stuff is just sitting in the box now.
Do you find that a lot of the people who want to be volunteers, what would you say is the age range and the what is the group of people, the age of the most people who want to volunteer?
So right now I have a 70-year-old woman who comes in and teach our portfolio prep class, right? So, and then I have a 24-year-old who comes in and teach a class, right? So it ranges. And then I also have a high school student who is now teaching stem and stitches to our students, right? So showing how crochet goes with math, so
Wow,
Oh, that's
wow.
we
really
work with a
wonderful.
variety
Wow.
of volunteers from different age groups and different backgrounds.
So let's jump a little bit to your experience on the film. I'd love to, if we can talk a little bit about your experience going on the festival circuit. Are you sharing this
You're a movie star
experience?
now, basically.
I know,
Tiffany.
you're
So
basically a
we
movie
just got to
star.
get into the inside scoop of what it's like to be the voice of and the writer of I Am Not Okay.
I have to tell you, when I first met you I think it was in Union Square when there was a showing. I think it was the opening at a festival or something. I was like, you totally had the movie star vibe. It was so cool. It was
You
really
look so
fun.
happy right now. Oh, I'm
It was-
glad you saw that.
Oh, totally. Totally. And it was just so exciting to see that this is taking off and that there's so much going on with it. So what is that like for you, having gone from a pandemic into now going to all these premieres and stuff with the film?
Man, it's freaking awesome. For me, I just feel like I'm a type of person growing up. I was always like never seen or heard or always in the back scenes of things because of how I grew up, in unfortunate situations. So I didn't really put myself out there at a young age, nor in my older younger years. I didn't do that as well either. So as an adult and as the pandemic happened and being on the front line, supporting my community, making sure everybody eat, have essential items, I felt a great pleasure in that. And I wanted more people to understand what was happening, and that as a Black woman who's struggling, I'm still out here willing to make sure my community has what it needs, and still willing to fight the good fight regardless of what I may have been lacking. So for Gabrielle to listen to my words, see it as something that was major for it to be put out there, and then turn it into something that makes it to festivals where you're sitting on panels. I just went to Puerto Rico this year to see the film,
Wow.
and it just was
Good.
it's just phenomenal to know that my name, my voice, my name is international and making it out on this film where people are really interested. It's unfortunate that this is the case of
That it has to be because of this. Right.
I also
Right.
believe
Not
that
the best circumstances.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I do believe that the more we speak about it, and it coming from individuals who may have be an asset in certain communities and a leader in certain communities, that people will start listening and leaning in and keeping those conversations going.
And I do think that is what's happening. I think as crazy as things are right now, and I think God knows where it's going to go over the next 4 years at
Woo!
least. I think there's circumstances with our election system that is pretty messed up, and with our media. But I do think that that most people
Yep.
are open to listening, opening to seeing, and to paying attention to what's going on. I still think we have such a way to go as a society to understand that there has been a community that has been so oppressed that I really do believe that we have to find a way somehow for people to understand that the pendulum has not even gotten to a place where it's at equilibrium. So for us to this election was scary to see that there were a lot of people are like, we swung too far. I've had these conversations. We've swung too far. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? We haven't
Really?
even swung to a place of equilibrium.
Yep.
That's what I want to say. This we swung too far bullshit is bullshit. We
I
haven't
agree.
even gotten there.
I mean, there's times people come in and they say, "Oh, you're Tiffany? You're the ED and founder." And I'm like, what were you expecting?"
Mm.
Well, what were they expecting?
That's what I want to know. They don't really say what they was expecting, but
Oh, because your name's Tiffany? Well, the
yeah.
name Tiffany sounds totally like like Barbie to me. You think of this white girl with blonde hair.
They like,
I think
I'm like, yeah.
maybe that's what they're
And they're
thinking.
like, "Oh, you don't have I don't wear a blazer. I don't wear a collar shirt. I wear my construction Tims and my bamboo earrings, and I'm on the ground." Yes.
When we're talking about the movie and how your words like leapt off of your computer screen and are now on a movie screen, I realized that you are an influencer.
Oh, absolutely. Which is
Have
so
you
funny
and your
'cause
son had
is-
this discussion yet? That you are like, which
My
came first,
daughter.
the chicken or the egg, right? You're doing it. I mean, you're doing it.
My daughter says it all the time. She's just like, "Ma, I just happened to go. I wanted to know how much work you did, so I just went to Google and I just Googled your name, and then so many different things comes up." And she's like, "Wow, you really did a lot of work, and a lot of great positive things are happening." And that's what I didn't even think to like do that, but just
Well,
about
you
2
weren't
weeks
doing
ago.
it for that. You weren't doing it to
No,
become an
Right.
influencer online. You were
no.
doing it because you were actually trying to help your community.
Yes, I give a damn,
Yeah.
You were expressing yourself, and as a result of that, things changed and
Yeah,
things happened, and that's what art is.
And that, to
exactly.
me, is what the ultimate influencer is you're changing lives instead of this selling products and all that crap.
Exactly.
You are really
You see my
influencing
shirt, it
people's
says,
lives.
"Art
Art
Art
saves
saves."
saves
lives.
lives.
Yeah. And it's true.
I thought you were going to flash me there for a second, Tiffany. I was getting
Well,
nervous.
if you had some dollars, maybe. Let me stop.
Wow. It is after hours, after all.
Oh my God. Now we have to make this an X-rated. I'm going to have to damn.
I
But
love
it really is so wonderful because you really are doing that. And it says so much about you that after all you've been through in your life, how much you're giving to this and to these kids is so beautiful.
Thank
It's like to me, it's really what we all should be doing,
Thank you. It's rewarding. I part of me is showing up for that little girl nobody showed up for, and the other
Yeah.
part of me is seeing the same situations happening with our young people that I was facing when I was younger, and I can't understand it. I can't process it.
By the way, I went to the gallery on your website, and
Yes.
those pictures are unbelievable. Some of the artwork that these kids have done is pretty
Amazing.
astounding.
I'm going to ask this because I haven't asked it in a little while, I think, on the podcast.
Are we going for the elevator pitch?
No, we're not.
Oh. Oh, I know what you're going to ask.
Because it's easy for Tiffany to give the elevator pitch. Like that's what you
I
do,
know,
like
that's what she
to
does.
investors and, all kinds
Right.
of grant people. That's what you do. No. So you've done this. It is done. Done. What else would you do with your life if it was not related to the arts?
Man, I will be out here serving my people.
How?
I'll still be on the
Politician?
ground.
What would you do?
Politician? I don't know.
Oh, she's not saying no. She is not saying
You're
no.
not in the run
I'm
for
not
something
saying no.
crowd.
I'm not saying no. I do believe that in the next 5 to 10 years that's where I'm going to head. Is
All right.
into politics to find the resources for organizations such as this organization, and to continue to serve in a way that we haven't been served with grace.
Well, you don't have to do it you don't have to be a senator or representative.
Yes.
So there's a really great organization called Run for Something. I don't know if you've heard about them.
Yeah.
And after the 2016 election, this is how AOC became a congresswoman, is that Run for Something. They were like, we got to get people in local, from the bottom up in positions of power, basically. And so it's called Run for Something. We can talk about that when we talk about the website stuff, where people like you who actually do the work for the communities are running for boards, school boards, all of these
Correct.
things, and helping to change it on a local level, because politics is local, right? That was
Correct.
in the New York Times crossword puzzle today or yesterday. Politics is local, and we need people like you who actually are willing to do the work and can do it, and do it with power.
Correct.
Good
And
exchange
purpose.
of information here.
Yeah.
Once again, solidifying that we are changing lives with this podcast, Nancy. we're now sending Tiffany in an easier direction, but just a website. Just go to the website. AOC did it, and look where she is. Tiffany is already like a star of the screen. And we know that often helps in a campaign, right? If they've already been on screen. They already know how to speak. You had to speak for the movie. So you're already there. So thank you for all of your service to our community as an elected official and everything you did before that.
Well, right. Thank you. Yeah, I'm more like, if I'm going to run for these positions, I already want the work to be done. People know who I am, what I'm capable of. I don't just want to come out the woolworks and people are like, what have she done? We don't know her.
Well, you've done a lot. You've actually
Just make your daughter your campaign manager. She just did all this research. She knows everything
Exactly.
you've done.
Exactly. She's like, girl, she started sending me screenshots. You here.
Oh.
That's so
Oh,
funny.
thank you.
So what is next for you?
Well, what's next for me? RHAP, RHAP Art Project is 15 years old this year.
Woo-woo.
So my goal is to get us to another 15 years, but I do believe that there's other things that I want to do with myself. I do want to see RHAP be international. I have a deep passion for Puerto Rico, so I do want to see RHAP in Puerto Rico. So that's what my hopes are, is to build another one outside of New York City, and see where it goes.
Yes,
that's great.
that's a good plan.
Yeah.
Are you raising funds for that, or how are you doing that?
Yeah and no. So I'm hoping that the David Prize will kind of help support me.
Wait, you got the David Prize?
I did not get it, but I'm hoping
You'll get it next time.
I'll get it
What
next
is the
time.
David Prize?
An individual in New York City who is looking to make things good receives, is it $500,000? $300,000?
It's $100,000 for each individual, or $200,000. Sorry.
$200,000. That's it. No questions asked.
Yes.
Take it. Do something with it.
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
And I think it's a very small a handful of people get it. And
Yes.
it is a very, very long application.
It's a very long, but I applied in 2020. I made it to the third round. I didn't make it to the final round, so that was fine. I was going to apply again, but when I was, 2 people in Red Hook already won. So I knew that they
Ah,
wasn't going to choose us for
Yeah.
another couple of years.
right.
So 2025 is my year.
Okay, good. I
I
agree.
hope so.
I
Yes.
cannot
Yeah.
wait for when they announce that. That's going
Yeah,
to be
that'll
great.
be cool.
Yeah, and then for this organization here in Red Hook, I do want to expand it to more of a art residency kind of vibe. Buy a building. And when I say art residency, I mean
Ooh.
where our young people, young adults, as they age out, they have an artist space, but on top of housing, and so they're able to get into some type of permanent housing.
I love it's so groovy.
Yeah, that's really
It's like
wonderful.
groovy.
Because it's nothing really for artists, and artists
Yeah.
we have struggling artists, but they are the ones making the world a better
Yeah.
place with all of the things that they create.
Just need a big old space. Just a big old
Yes, but they can't
space.
afford to live anywhere. So it's like,
And
how
Red
do we
Hook is
create
getting
that?
so expensive
Trust me, I pay
everywhere.
$2,500 rent in my apartment. It's like a box.
Oh my God.
Ugh.
It's insane. But I'm thankful for people to see me come from the shelter, live in the projects, and then move out of the projects and live on the outskirts of Niger, but still in my community and still doing the work.
Are you still living in Bay Ridge?
No, I'm back in Red Hook now. So I live 5 steps away from RHAP.
That's great.
As it should be.
Exactly.
Yes.
Thank you so much for everything you're doing and
And thank you
making
for
the
coming
world a
back
better
to
place.
us.
And thanks for coming back to us. Well,
Thank
yeah,
you
people
for
who
having me.
people don't know we tried a double header interview. We tried to do 2 people at once, and it was like a day from hell. I couldn't get an internet, and so it was wow, that was a lot. But it was
Yeah.
good because we kind of got to it was like a what do they call it? Not a pre-interview. It is a
No,
pre-interview,
it was a
right?
pre-interview.
pre-interview.
It was
Yeah, like when you go
actually-
on Johnny Carson. Hi, I'm
Yeah.
old. When you go on Johnny Carson, they pre-interview. What am I talking about?
Right, I'm cold.
What's next? Ed Sullivan? I gotta go, everybody. Ed Sullivan's on.
That is hilarious.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Okay. We're going to end it before we date ourselves even more.
Hey, thanks for checking this out. Links to today's guest can be found in the show notes.
Don't forget to subscribe, like us, rate us, and tell all your friends about arts and craft.